Hello and welcome back to the CEO interview slot on TIP TV with me, Matt Brown. And I'm joined today by the CEO of Millennial Lithium. His name is Farhad Abasov. How are you today, Farhad?
Good. Thank you, Matt. Good to be here.
Indeed. It's a hot London afternoon here, so thank you very much for coming in. Well, let's start off. Millennial Lithium. Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, thanks, Matt, again. And Millennial Lithium is a lithium development company out of Argentina. We operate in a Lithium Triangle, which is basically, it's a tri-border area that covers Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia. Our projects are in 2 provinces in Argentina. Right now we're drilling the project, our flagship project, and the plan is actually to define the resource in the next few months and then do a preliminary economic assessment. The project is a salar project, or what we call a brine project. So in other words, this is not a hard rock. This is actually brines that have lithium in it. And the idea is to basically to pump them to the surface and use known traditional evaporation process to bring it to the lithium carbonate state where you can make the sale.
And with regards to if you're using the brine, is that cheaper than the solid lithium? Is that more cost effective?
No, normally speaking, yes. Your operating costs are on the lower end of the cost curve, and that's one of the reasons that we're interested in this brine project, because we think that despite all the good things that have been happening to lithium, if at any point lithium price ever comes down, we'll be in one of the best positions in the market or in the sector. So that's one of the major drivers here. And on the capital cost side, again, on a per ton basis, sometimes you may have hard rock projects that are cheaper. However, there's a big advantage on the brine side is that you can actually start small and scale it up without losing much in the economies of scale.
Understood. And for viewers and potential investors, lithium, where do we use it in everyday life?
Well, lithium actually used every day if you think about it. Obviously, you find in all your electronic devices from your handheld device all the way to laptops and so forth. But the main drivers, the 2 major drivers going forward, will be electric vehicles. Obviously, they use a lot of lithium in their batteries. And also what we call stationary power storage facilities. These are basically facilities that where you can use for renewables and to store power or electricity. While these renewable basically plants do not work, or there's no wind, or there's no sun, etc. So those 2 components are going to be large drivers, and we were talking about significant growth in demand. Today we use about 200 to 220,000 tons of lithium per year, but the forecast called for about 500 to 800,000 tons in 2025. So again, those 2 drivers are behind this tremendous growth forecast.
So lithium could be the next gasoline or petrol in that space?
Yeah, there are a lot of people, absolutely, Matt. I mean, there are a lot of people who talk about it, that this is the, basically the fuel or energy of future. And it looks like that's where we're heading. I mean, if you follow some of the major car manufacturers out of Europe, for example, the German car manufacturers, they're talking about making 20 to 25% of their new car fleets electric vehicles. So that's huge. I mean, today it's not even 1%. So if you take that into consideration, then we're talking about tremendous growth in demand. And I think that's where it's coming from. And you're absolutely right. It will have huge impact on the entire infrastructure as far as transportation is concerned.
So definitely a growth area. Now looking at where you operate, and you talked about the Lithium Triangle, predominantly in Argentina. How is operating in Argentina at the moment with regards to licensing? Do you have the government on board and supporting projects like yourself? Yeah,
that's a great question, Matt. I mean, we are in a province called Salta province in Argentina, and it's considered one of the best jurisdictions in the country. It's very mining friendly. They're very pro-business, and the country as a whole has been improving as well. As you know, since the election of the current president, President Macri, the country has been changing in terms of opening its doors to foreign direct investment. As far as mining is concerned, they actually removed 5% mining export tax, which is very important. But in terms of the general improvement of the investment climate in the country, the government actually settled a long-standing dispute with American bondholders a few months back. And that was an important step forward because, A, it actually resolved that issue. That means that people actually got their money back, but also it opened the gates to foreign direct investment and allowed the government to come back with bond issues. So that actually improves the image of the country in general. But going back to Salta, I think we were in great situation and position before. and frankly now it's even better. I mean, and that's there's a support at all levels, both the provincial government and the local government and local community, but now also from the central government in Argentina.
And with regards to the number of mines and projects that you currently have running,
Yes.
are any producing or are any in still development stage? What's the makeup of your portfolio?
We have 4 projects in Argentina. 3 of them are in Salta province, 1 is in Jujuy province, to the north of Salta, and all of them are at the development stage. So we have a flagship project called Pastos Grandes, and that is a project that has been explored in the past, and we're actively drilling it now. The plan is to drill it out and define our maiden resource by September, October of this year, and then if the resource warrants it, in other words, if it's robust enough, then we're going to go into preliminary economic assessment, which we hope to finish by the end of the year, if not, then early next year.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned a few milestones there. Is there anything else investors can look forward to over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, going forward, I think this summer is going to be very busy because we're actively drilling in Pastos Grandes, and we had 2 drill hole news out, and now we're going to be probably putting out a lot more news going forward. Mm-hmm. This is mostly on the drilling program itself. So in other words, we're not going to wait all the way until September to put out the whole thing. As we drill, we'll be putting all this news out. But also we've been doing a couple of other things. We've been doing pumping tests. So the results of the pumping tests will be out in the next few weeks. And then we're also going to be launching environmental baseline studies. That one is going to take us all the way to the middle of next year. That's important for both PE and obviously for the feasibility study. And we're going to start doing field evaporation tests. And so basically this is pilot level, or what we call evaporation pond level. Mm-hmm. These are not huge, obviously, but we're talking about 7 to 80 square meter area that will be used to actually go through the entire evaporation process. And again, the results will be important, and as we get the results, those will be announced as well. Coming back to the main milestones, that will be a maiden resource report by September, October, and then of course PEA by the end of the year.
And you mentioned lots of feasibility studies and tests going on, so one assumes you've got a good technical team in place. Can you just give us a brief overview of their experience and your support?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely critical, right? I mean, we're very fortunate to have a very good team, mm-hmm. led by our Chief Operating Officer, Ian Scar. Ian actually, happens to be your countryman. He is British by birth, but grew up in California. Last 10 years he spent in Argentina working on 2 major feasibility studies there on Salar's own brine projects. Mm-hmm. One owned by a company called Galaxy Resources, large brine project called Sal de Vida, and also on the project called Rincon, owned by another company. So he's had a tremendous experience in developing these projects. He's a geologist by training. And he's been based in Salta, so not only does he speak Spanish and does he know how to operate there, but he's also well regarded as a good network of service providers, which is very critical. Mm-hmm. Another person on the processing side is Vijay Mehta. Vijay is based in North Carolina, but he's, I would say, one of those processing gurus. He's designed these processing routes for FMC, one of the Argentinian operators, and also for some other companies, and is a key guy, again, to have on board for solar evaporation process, for pumping tests, etc. So between the 2, we cover 2 major elements of our development program, which is the geology and drilling, etc. with Ian, but also with Vijay on the processing side. We've also added another person, Senior VP of Technical Services, Peter McLean. Peter has spent a decade working in Latin America. He speaks Spanish fluently, and also operated in remote areas. So he's a perfect person to add to the team to help Ian and Vijay to take this project to the next level.
So it sounds like you've got a strong team on the ground working hard there.
A very, very good team. And as you know, I think we have a very good team and kind of almost complete team for this stage of development. As we go into the feasibility stage, obviously we'll need to add more people. And one of the people on our board is a director of our company. His name is Rick Lacroix, and Rick will be very instrumental going forward, especially at the feasibility stage. He used to run Potash Corp of Saskatchewan's operations. I mean, he was a senior VP in charge of operations. Not only did it build, develop and operate these projects, but it was also involved on the marketing and distribution side. So really a key guy to have on board, because he's done this for 30 years. And their value is immense as you go into the feasibility and, of course, the construction.
And with regards to potential investors. You're listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange,
Correct.
Toronto. Ticker?
Ticker is ML, so
ML,
Millennial
nice and
Lithium.
easy.
Yes, that's very easy. Millennial Lithium.
Okay.
ML. So it is on TSX Venture,
Yep.
and we have some large investors in the group already. I mean, the management and the board own about 30% of the company, so we're really, strongly vested in the success of this project and the company, of course. But we also have some large institutional support out of Europe and out of Canada. Altogether, they own probably another 20-25% of the company. And in terms of geographic distribution, again, the very strong support out of Canada, of course, but also strong support from continental Europe, mostly from Germany. And I think that links well with their understanding of course, the lithium sector's importance for car manufacturing and, of course, for electric vehicles. The plan is obviously to expand our institutional support, and that's one of the reasons that we're doing a roadshow in London, in Europe, as well as in the United States. You're absolutely right. Lithium is becoming what we call a cornerstone of a quiet technological revolution, and we see that we're getting traction with large institutions as we develop this project further.
That's great to hear. Well, on that note, Farhad Abasov of Millennial Lithium, thank you so much for joining us.
Matt, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much.